Thanks for choosing this free Anfield Index podcast. If you'd prefer to listen to this or any of our other shows without adverts, then now's the time to check out Anfield Index Pro. With AI Pro, you can supercharge your entire listening experience. You'll not only get all of our podcasts without the ads, but you'll have them far faster with our Quick Publish feature available exclusively for subscribers. AI Pro also puts you in the heart of our sound studio, with an option to listen to many of our shows live and interact with the podcasters in real time as the shows are recording. Upgrading couldn't be easier. AI Pro is available on all popular podcast platforms, and we have our own apps for Apple and Android. Just head on over to AnfieldIndexPro.com and get started today.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Nina Kauser show. We've been on a little bit of a break on this, and personally, I think we could have done with a little bit more of a break, but that's just me and those are just my thoughts. We are going to be covering our post-match thoughts and our reaction to Liverpool's throwaway game against Brighton. 3-3 it finished at Anfield, and there's so much to talk about, probably so much frustration. It's not great, but fear not, I have two incredible guests on this show who are going to help me and walk me through this, and hopefully by the end of this podcast, maybe you guys listening and myself, I might start feeling a little better, who knows. But yeah, without further ado, let me introduce my panel. First up, hearing her a fair few times on the main Anfield Index podcast, and she's a big ball of positivity. It's Lisa Marie. Lisa, welcome back.
It's nice to be back, Nina. I mean, at least to chat to you, not necessarily to chat about what we just saw. Yes. And even my ability to be positive does have its limits, but I'm going to give it a try. And you know what? We'll all feel better after we're done talking it through, I'm sure.
Yeah, I truly believe that this season and the way the Reds are playing is to try and really test your resolve. Like, I feel like that's their purpose this season, but yeah, we'll see how you get on. But yeah, it was not great. And once again, a shout out to all our international supporters of Liverpool Football Club who get up at ridiculous of times to watch Liverpool. Shout out to you and respect to you. And it's not my place to apologise, but I'm sorry you had to watch that. And joining Lisa Marie, I have the old guard back on the Nina Kauser show. I love talking to him, so it's great to have him back, and that just makes me feel great as well. It's Shree, welcome back.
Hey Nina, third appearance, third draw. I don't know whether we draw just because I'm coming or that's just the problem.
It's the curse of you always taking the mick out the way I pronounce that word. There you go. It's all coming back in a full circle on you, Shree. It's not great. But guys, we've got some people who are joining us live on Discord. A massive welcome to you guys for joining us. We really appreciate it. If anybody wants to call in, feel free to drop a message in the chat, or even if you've got a question and you don't want to come on, onto the podcast, by all means, share your discussions in Discord. We'll happily, get your points on the show. But, okay, let's go there. And, Lisa, I'm going to come to you first. No Reds for a whole month, pretty much, there or thereabouts. The last game was, of course, that awful draw against Everton. Since then, 2 games, one absolutely horrendous, disgusting display against Napoli, which I would rather just edge out my mind. And then, of course, the win against Ajax, where Liverpool kind of looked like themselves to a degree, and there was some moments of positivity. But today, Brighton, after that game, how do you feel? Because I felt like it felt very much like an emotional roller coaster in terms of how the scoreline was going and things.
That was the exact phrase I was going to use, Nina, was emotional roller coaster. Because, the first 15 or 20 minutes, I mean, I'm going to be honest with you, if I wasn't scheduled to be on this podcast, I very well might have turned it off and walked away, just not wanting to ruin my Saturday. But, hung in there, and, we looked like we were rolling it back together. Only to kind of lose ourselves there again at the end. So it was. Emotional roller coaster is absolutely the best way to describe it, overall. And, I'm sure we'll get into it as we move forward. But it was definitely a game of ups and downs.
Yeah, absolutely. Really could not control, it just was, I was everywhere in that game. And Shri, what about you? I mean, how do you feel after that? Because, it's mad, right? Because, again, football and football scores are a very funny thing. Like, if Liverpool were losing 2-1 and it was like injury time and Liverpool got a goal back, I feel like emotions are very, very different. But the fact that they kind of went on the front foot and they were like 3-2 up, and then to kind of concede, some really, really horrendous goals, in my opinion, and, avoidable goals. And then to kind of like, I don't know, drop points, it's the psychology of what a draw means and how you gain it, or right?
I think in the sense, if you see how it finished, you could say maybe we dropped 2 points. But you could also think if you see the whole game, they should have scored maybe 5 or 6. So in that way, I would say a point gain. So that's what I would sound it as, because I think it was a lucky point for us overall. And so I think overall it's a gain. I would say, tough we finished, but it's not the first time we are seeing any of the things we saw today. So
Yeah. No, this is so true, Shri. And I like the fact that you kind of mentioned that, it could have been 3-4-0, if it wasn't for Alisson Becker and, all his sort of kind of heroics in between the sticks, because, you forget those moments, and I did for a second. So thank you for kind of reminding me, or maybe not, I don't know. But okay, guys, let's get into this. And Shri, I'm going to stick with you. Team lineup. What did you make of the team lineup? Of course, there was some kind of changes. We know Shimikas was going to come in for Robbo because he's out injured. Hendo comes straight back in. Thiago starts again, which is always good. Fabinho midfield. Salah, Firmino, and Carvalho. So, what? And of course, the back forwards are Trent, Matip, Van Dijk, and Alisson Becker. So, what did you make of the starting lineup?
To be honest, that is the lineup I expected, because this is not the first time we are seeing from Klopp that when the people who have played in the South American teams return, he doesn't usually start, or maybe the medical team don't clear them to start, and it's obvious he always gets them on, say, 45 or 60 minutes in. So it was only the question of who's going to start instead of Luis Diaz. Diaz wasn't starting at all, I would say, and I think with Hendo being fit and coming on playing few minutes for England, it was apparent he's going to start. So in terms of team lineup, again, we have discussed this before. Would this be the lineup he would have played? No, but would we trust Klopp that he would have made this lineup? Yes, absolutely.
Yes, I've made my peace with that as well. What I want and what Klopp want are two very different things. But yeah, I think you're absolutely spot on with the lads who travel quite far, especially the ones who play, for the likes of like Brazil and Uruguay and Colombia, big distance to be travelled, and Klopp is going to rest them. I think there was probably logic behind that as well. Lisa, starting lineup for you. I mean, your golden child was on the bench, but what did you make of the starting lineup?
It was really what I expected to see. I mean, I think Harvey played a lot of minutes for England on the international break, so it made sense for him not to start, because we're certainly going to need him in the next run of games. And again, with the South American players, just with that the distance on top of the minutes they played in the international break, it did make sense. And I was a little bit interested to see what Carvalho looked like in the front line, because mostly when he's come in, it seems like he's played more midfield, if I'm remembering correctly. So I was a little bit interested to see what that was going to look like and what he was going to do. So I mean, Hendo was fairly predictable to be on that right side, and the back four was what I expected it to be.
Absolutely. I mean, we're just we're getting some chit chat in Discord. I have a question from Steve Pizza, which we'll get to in a minute. I'd like Klopp to take charge again. Too many voices in his head. Guys, just keep your comments coming. I'll try reading them out as much as I can. Shri, I'm going to come to you because what did you make of the whole start? I mean, you've not played for a month in terms of the Premier League. Brighton really haven't played in a month. They haven't. And they've got and a lot has happened to them in that time. Manager leaves. They were playing really well. Manager leaves, goes to Chelsea. They get De Zerbi in. You're thinking, what's going to happen here? Will it be a new manager bounce, or what's going to happen? Has he had any time to work with them? What's he going to do? Is he going to stick or twist? He kind of stuck with what they've been kind of going with in previous games under Potter. But Liverpool, I think it's absolutely crucial that they needed to have a positive kind of start. And, not great when you concede in 4 minutes. I mean, what did you make of Liverpool's start? I mean, Tossard just absolutely just sticking it to us. I mean, talk to me about the start by Liverpool, and also, again, sloppy goals that we tend to concede. And in this one in particular, I think Trent's header back to Hendo kind of failing to kind of control it as well. Again, we're always talking about, poor, defending. And I don't like that trend. And I certainly don't like it in this season when you've got those kind of players. It was excusable when we used to have a really shit defense, but this is, terrible now. This is, amateur stuff. And, do we have to maybe give a lot of credit to how Brighton play as well, because obviously they press really well. I felt like in the attack they were very cutthroat.
I think it's all feels like early July pre-season. We just cannot get started. I think Bournemouth, now it's very clear, was a one-off, or Bournemouth are so shit that even we played well in the beginning. But I think we just cannot start. It feels like heavy legs, and there is nothing to get started at all. We just cannot. There is no. We have discussed this. I've come on twice. There seems to be no plan. The plan. It reminds me of what Brendan used to say, that we are building the plane as we are flying it, and that's how it seems to be. That doesn't seem to be a plan. That doesn't seem. It almost seems like all of the 11 almost feel like they play with each other for the first time.
No, I hear you, Shri. It just very, very much does look disjointed, a little bit everywhere. I don't know what's going on. It is quite frustrating because, Lisa, that was not the start that you as a supporter want to watch, and it's not a start that you want the lads to be in, given the fact that they, how many times have we come back from how many goals have we conceded? It's getting a bit embarrassing now, and I think it's actually now, there's big warning signs on that. I feel like maybe the team talk is get into them really, really quick. They don't settle, and let's rattle them a bit. But horrible start, and just simple stuff that you should be doing. That you expect so much better from professionals, and and not And I felt like Trent was really, really under the microscope a fair bit. With what happened with the international break, with Gareth Southgate comments. I felt like this was probably the perfect opportunity for him to kind of respond back, and and then within 4 minutes he has a moment like that where people will blame him but for me, I think Hendo was probably just as bad for not controlling that. If not, that's where it all started from, but a horrible start.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that used to be what we were known for, was the way we would just start beautifully, and that is not the case. And it doesn't even shock me anymore when we concede first. I think that's that upsets me. I'm sorry, I just had to say that. But you know what? Back to a point you made a minute or so ago. I think Brighton do deserve credit. This isn't the Brighton we're used to playing a couple seasons ago, where we were like, oh yeah, okay. They have played, to their credit, they have played very well so far this season. They're looking really good, and you've got to give them credit for the change in manager not throwing them off their game. Brighton is a team that I enjoy watching, outside of the Liverpool matches. I mean, if I'm looking for a team to watch, Liverpool's, on a Saturday when we're playing on a Sunday or vice versa, Brighton is often the game that I'll put on, because I just enjoy the way they play. And I didn't so much enjoy the way they played against us today. I was really hoping for an off day, but no. And Trent, he did. I really wanted him to respond, in just fuck off, Gareth Southgate. I can play, I can defend, and I don't know if he's just gotten too mad a little bit or what the deal is. I honestly, I don't know. I'm not a sports psychologist. I don't know, but he didn't respond to all the chatter that has been, out and about on him in the last week or so the way I really wanted him to respond. And but you're right, he was really responsible for that first goal. Hendo kind of screwed up too. But the whole, I actually said to my husband when I went downstairs just before we started, I said, how the hell did we go from having the best defense in the league to whatever the hell it is we're seeing now? How has that happened? Because it's essentially the same players. It's not like we switched them all up. It's the same guys. What is going on? Too much coffee,
Yes.
sorry.
No, you know what? Alexa informed me today it's National Coffee Day, so knock yourself
No
out.
way.
That's a fun fact for you on the pod. That's what I find really baffling as well, Lisa, is the fact that these guys could defend. What has happened? Like, I know there's there's always that analogy, there's someone space jammed them. I have no idea what is going on. But Shri, I'm just going to come back to you, because what is actually going on with the defense? I mean, under normal circumstances, we don't make those errors. We don't behave like that. And I completely appreciate that Brighton do play really well and they pressed us. And, an observation that I made in like the first 10 minutes, we were struggling to impose ourselves, failing to win the second ball, lack of rhythm. Brighton press was so effective. They were kind of rushing us. And again, with the first goal that they scored, which was around about 4 minutes, they were just so cutthroat at moving that ball around our box and kind of getting the wheel in motion. But what is going on?
I think we have now had a month to look at this, and we continue to do the same things. We have one system which we want to play, and he's continuing to play a set of players who clearly cannot play the way he's designed to. So there are only two options, right? We either tweak the system to decide based on the 11 he wants to play, or you play the right players for the system you want to play. It's almost like there is this dissonance between the system we want to play and the players he continues playing. Okay, there was a problem. You notice it game 1, game 2. We have 9 games in, we have months in, and we continue to do the same things. So before you at least had a strong system where you will say individual errors are not getting highlighted because the system is so tight, so watertight. If somebody covers the transitions are covered, there is a backup support. But now the problem is system has gone to shit. So basically individual mistakes just get shown up even more. There's no backup cover. So first mistake, this is Brendan Rodgers' defense, where every chance is a big chance. Today, I was just checking this stat. They had 6 shots, 6 big chances. They could have scored all 6. This is Brendan Rodgers' defense.
That is shocking and staggering. I've not looked at the stats like that, but my word. I guess then
every shot is a chance. Every shot is a chance because the point is there is no one stopping them. It's not like they are taking speculative shots. There's no one stopping them getting into the box. We can't defend in the box. We are just banking on Ali to save us.
You know what, and that kind of ties me in ever so nicely, and I'm going to come to Lisa on this because I'd like to hear your comments and your response to the defence, at least if you've got any on what Shri said. But Shri just kind of mentioned that horrendous stat that all their chances were big chances. They could have scored them all, so we could have lost that game 6-3 effectively. I mean, Ali, big saves and, huge saves actually. He kept us in it for quite a while, and then he had that monster save around about 12 minutes where, he kind of gets his legs in, he kind of stops Tossard from scoring with his legs. Like he was like basically the whole defence at some points in that period, in my opinion.
You're absolutely correct. I mean, if it wasn't for Alisson, we would have lost that. We could have been down by 4 at halftime. So definite credit goes to him for the saves that he was making, and honestly, the ones that did go past him, I really don't think he can be faulted for all that much, because it all just broke down in front of him, and there's only so much he can do. But yeah, it's just I really think who would have thought a season or 2 seasons ago that we would be talking this way about the defense being our problem. And not just the back 4 defense, but even the way the midfield and, everybody, the defense as a whole, or the defending, I guess would be a better way to put it. Because it is, and I haven't looked at, at any of the stats, and that was really a very interesting one that, Shreve brought forward. But it's, again, I don't know how to respond to it, because it's not like we've had massive changes to the players that are back there. Maybe that is the problem. Maybe we do need some changes. I mean, well, to be fair, we do have Konate, but he hasn't, been able to play so far this season. So maybe if we can get him back in, that will help to a degree. But I don't know that. I don't know. I'm just rambling at this point in time. But yeah, I don't know I don't know how we can solve it, other than they all just need to get their heads on straight and do better. Which I know sounds very simplistic. It
does, doesn't it? It really does. But and again, something that I kind of noticed as well was the fact that there was a lot of targeting going on around to our right hand side as well. And I find that obviously a player like Trent Alexander-Arnold, who I feel like is under the microscope a fair bit. And yeah, he's not been playing great by no stretch of the imagination. He has been poor. But I feel like we're not addressing a bigger issue as maybe supporters, as pundits. And I feel like they have like a responsibility. And maybe even the coaching staff at Liverpool, that there is no help for him on the right-hand side in like a midfielder that, is going to actually hold up positional play in the right way. I just feel like he's kind of been... he's kind of been hung out to dry. I just feel like he's a very, very easy target. Don't get me wrong, he's not been great. And yet, even like, we'll get to it, second goal, again, on the right-hand side, pretty much copy and paste from the same position. And, Trent involved again, Shri, in the lead up to that goal. But again, it was poor. It was a lapse of concentration from Trent Alexander-Arnold. I don't know if the first event or the first lead up to the goal maybe got into his head. Maybe, I don't know what's got, like Lisa said, we're not sports psychologists, so this is our amateur stab at things. But, just absolutely like amateur stuff that you would not expect a team of Liverpool's calibre to be doing. And then again, you have to give credit to Brighton, because again, they were quick, they were decisive, they were effective. I thought Estupinian on our right hand side, on their left, actually had a really, really good game.
I to be honest, we have discussed this for a lot of time. It almost looks like he looks short. There is literally nothing wrong. Even let's ignore the mistakes. Even when he's like defending, it almost seems like he's playing in slow motion. Maybe I don't know if I'm only getting that feeling, but it almost maybe he's not running at all. He's jogging. Literally, I don't know. I have no. See, again, it's very difficult for us to judge what's going on actually here. But also, I'm not sure. Like, he's the fulcrum clearly, but I'm not sure what do we want to do with it. He's all over the place in a good way and bad way. He's sometimes in the midfield. He's sometimes in the number 6. He's sometimes on the overlap. I have no idea what do we want to do with him. He's all over the shop, and his confidence is short. I don't think we need a better combination for things to go wrong.
Yeah, I'm going to pay attention to his slow motion defending. I mean, it's an observation that you've made. I'm definitely going to pay attention to that, Shri. I will be watching him, not to criticize, but I'm trying to figure out what's gone horribly wrong there. Why is it not working?
He might just be overthinking. Where he's kind of in his head, and he's just like, okay, I've got to do that. You can be, paralysis by analysis, if you will. And again, I'm sounding like I know what I'm talking about from a sports psychology standpoint, but I think sometimes, as opposed to relying on his acting more instinctively, I think he's taking that extra split second or two to think about what he should do, and therefore it's slowing him down. But, I don't know. It's very easy for me to sit here in my, living room in front of my TV and watching a replay and say that.
It's very easy for all of us, it's very easy for us to be like, well, do this better and do that better. But yeah, I would have to agree with you there. But yeah, I don't know if he is trying too hard. Maybe he's feeling, the pressure of the criticism now, because, for most of his career, as a senior player for Liverpool, he's been lauded with praise. So maybe it's the first time ever he's having to deal with that kind of criticism, and and it's coming from like quite a big, from all angles as well, even from your national manager, as your international manager. But I mean, Lisa, I'll stick with you because we got 2-0 down. I want to get your personal thoughts on how you felt after that, because I was just sat there like, oh my god, I was like, oh, it's bad enough we concede one, but let's make it even difficult for ourselves and concede two. But then, obviously, I kind of started noticing things from like players after we went a goal down as well. Like like senior players that you normally don't expect errors from, like VVD kicking the ball out of play. I think Fab did it as well. Thiago misplacing passes, maybe over, putting too much on a cross. But, players that, that are like your bread and butter, like your safeguards, were like, have, that 2-0 scoreboard lead for Brighton, you could see it having an impact on the players on the pitch.
Oh, agreed, 100%. I mean, our passing was not great the entire game, quite honestly. I mean, that was, one of the first things I noticed even before they scored their second goal. I'm like, why can we not, why can we not pass the ball today? What is wrong? I mean, and again, even, players that generally don't misplace passes they were just not going where they needed to go. But so it did get that sort of frantic feel there actually, honestly, after the first goal. And then it started to look a little bit better, and they scored again. And then, there was a good, 10 minutes or so of, I was just like, honestly, at one point I was like, isn't it almost halftime? And it was only like 32 minutes. And I'm like, this half feels like it has been an hour. I mean, I've rarely have that feeling, especially in a game where there's been so much, but it just, I guess because it was just so tense and we were playing so horribly, I just wanted it to be halftime so that we could get off with only the 2 goals. And I mean, I was honestly afraid. it was going to be more than 2, for them before we got to the half. I mean, as I said earlier, I think if I were not on this podcast, I honestly can't say that I wouldn't have turned off the TV and walked away. But I didn't.
I wouldn't have blamed you, but thank you so much for sticking around and, coming on the pod, because, I think I would have really struggled. Shri, I'm going to come to you. I mean, what were your thoughts at 2-0 down? Because I'm going to be honest with you, with the way Liverpool were playing and the way they were just so cutthroat and just completely like pulling us to pieces and sort of, pouncing on any little error that we were making and kind of forcing us into errors as well. It felt like we might lose that game. That's how I felt. Like, I think I can't see us doing anything here. If we continue on this way, it gave me Napoli vibes.
To be honest, at that point of time, I was wondering how is it only 2-0, because they should have smashed us by that time. I didn't know how to react. See, if you remember when we started with Klopp, it was chaotic, right? It was chaos, fun, frantic, in a good way. Then we moved on to, say, controlled chaos, if you could say. Like, we would have periods of control, resting on the ball, recycling it, spreading the ball, maintaining the width. But the control width was always with us. We could step up and step down gears when we want. Now we have no control, and we have chaos in the wrong direction. It's chaotic in a bad way. So I think it's the absolute end of the spectrum we are at in terms of the Klopp era. From chaos going to the middle of controlled chaos, and now we have chaos in the wrong way. Because literally we can't, and I think I discussed this when I was on the Fulham game, we can't string 5 passes together. Maybe the system, I don't know. Passing is, I wouldn't say, is on the system. But if you can't string 5 passes together, I don't think any system is going to save you. The only system can save you is when you eventually lose the ball, can you do something with it? Which obviously been very clear. We are not able to do anything in defensive transitions at all. There is no like it's almost like you give them the ball, then the question is, are they getting into the box or not? And that's where they got in 6 times today, as we discussed before, 6 chances. We needed obviously Alisson to bail us out. I think that is the problem. We can't keep hold of the ball. So we are obviously going to lose the ball. The more we are losing the ball, since we can't defend, they are going to have more chances. The big chances are just going to, I think the under pressure folks would do a far more better job than we three would do it. But I think the numbers are going to be consistently high this season because we can't maintain control and we can't defend. I think it sounds like Captain Obvious, but there is no obvious way you're going to win this game. If you can't keep the ball and you can't defend either.
Yeah, I've got some. I think that's fair. You're right. We can't string 5 passes together. I'm just having a look on Discord here, and Chamber Trilogy is giving his thoughts on the whole Trent situation and the whole team as well. I'll just read some comments by him. There's a clear lack of harmony within the team, and it seems that there's some major distrust between some key players. It seems that a good deal of Trent's lack of application and light jogging back is, etc., seems a response to that very lack of help. Feels like he's given up a bit and lost faith in the system in front of him. Fair comments there, Chamber Trilogy. Having said that, though, Shri, I'll stick with you because round about 30 minutes, what I kind of noticed was, obviously I was kind of watching. One thing I did notice, though, was Mo Salah was kind of having, I don't know, a much, much brighter start than what we've been used to this season in terms of he wasn't hogging the touchline, as we always say. And, around about 30, I think it was around about 30 minutes, he had like, he had a chance where, Sanchez kind of saves with his kind of split legs. But before that, Sanchez also gave them a bit of gave us a bit of hope and gave Brighton a lot of scares because kind of demonstrated he went really good with his feet. And I think it was Carvalho that tried running at him and stuff and kind of rattled him. But you could see that Liverpool were trying to do something. Something was bubbling under the surface.
Yeah, I think the 15-minute or 20-minute period before the break and then the 15-minute period after the break is where we had some semblance of control. And obviously, control means you are going to dominate the ball. And it was glad that Salah they suddenly realized he's allowed to move inwards and he can play more central. It's like some light bulb just switched on and they realized this was allowed. Though he's done it for 5 seasons now, it's sudden realization. It's come in that he's allowed to do such things. Obviously, we have talked this before. We need to get Salah involved. Main problem has been Salah has not been involved, or he's been involved in absolutely non-effective areas. So obviously, obviously he's a class player. Ultimately, with Mo, however the team plays, we know what we are going to get it from him. He's going to make himself involved wherever it's coming. So I don't know whether it was a systemic decision to get him more central, or I just said, I don't care, I'm going to play how I want. I wouldn't rule the latter out, to be honest. If he's one player who wants to score, and he has to be involved to score. So I am not going to rule that out. He's just decided, what are the system, I'm just going to do this. Because he was a couple of times even on the left, I think he was chasing the ball, getting on. So he was also basically rowing all the way around. So it was good. I think it's clear, if we have control, we seem to play better. But obviously nowhere near, not even 70-80% of where we are playing. But if we don't have control, we're going to struggle. I think it's very easy to say, Nina, we have 3 basic problems. We can't start well, we can't end well, and we don't play well in between. And that is fundamentally where we are struggling.
And Lisa, I'll come to you with the Mo Salah and Shree's observation there as well, that he definitely looked like he was a bit more free flowing. Maybe it was his own kind of decision. And Shree doesn't blame him. I don't blame him, given the fact that he has been our leading goal scorer and he pretty much breaks every record. And if Liverpool are to play well in an attacking sense, then that guy has to kind of be up for it and look like his former self. I mean, what did you make of the front three? And then I'll have a question from Steve Pizza about our attacking lineup. What did you make of our attack? Because I felt like towards after we went 2-0 down, I felt like they were trying to do something.
Agreed. I mean, not that they weren't trying to do anything before that, but yeah, you did really see a little bit more of a spark being lit, amongst the front three after that second goal. Right. And yeah, I mean, Shreve was right. I mean, he drifted. There was a couple times where he was over on the left and I was like, oh, wait, how do you get over there? So yeah, he needs to be involved, and he was definitely doing what he could to be involved. Bobby certainly as well. I mean, I think honestly, it as the game went on, but Bobby had a lot of those misplaced passes that we referenced, or I myself referenced it, a few minutes ago. I mean, there was a couple times where I was just like, oh, Bobby, but and it may have been thrown off a little bit by the fact that Carvalho was the third one up there, which is that's not a typical front three for us. So maybe it just took them that first 20 plus minutes or so to kind of work into a rhythm, on how they're going to, work with each other there, because it did feel as though they were kind of working a little bit alone. And then finally it started to kind of gel and mesh a little bit there as, progressed. And of course, Bobby and Mo are used to being, up there together, but again, the misplaced passing and just the sort of frantic rhythm that we had and lack of control. As we gained the control, it started to click better. And, we were seeing, I mean, I think honestly, and I saw it at one point in the game, I don't know what the final stat was, but we had more chances. It was just that when Brighton could get up there, their chances were counting a lot more than ours were. So it just seemed to take us, it's just the whole lack of rhythm that we have had this entire season. We just haven't had it. And, but it was starting, as the game was progressing, it started to look like it was kind of coming together.
Absolutely. And I'll just quickly read something by Tall Paul 713. I think the England, referring to Trent, obviously, I think the England snub has affected him mentally too. Like, what's the point? Playing well has meant nothing. If I make a mistake, I get slaughtered in the papers, big headlines and a national debate, while Walker, Reece James get a 2-line right up at the bottom of the page if they mess up, kind of thing. I'd be pissed off by that too. Yeah, I feel like he does get a fair lot more criticism than any of those players. Now I have a question here, Shree. I'll come to you first. It's from Steve Pizza. Steve Pizza, can't call in Nina, but an antidote for the inevitable and well-deserved doom and gloom here in a discussion point for the panel. What do you think our best front three is right now? Bobby, Diaz and Jota all seem bright and on form. Which two do you add to more and why?
I think it's Bobby, Diaz and Mo, because there are multiple reasons. It seems like Mo plays better when Bobby plays and vice versa. Like, Bobby's clearly not Nina, the ones we knew when he came in from Hoffenheim or for the few seasons there. But he's at least scoring goals. And with the way we defend, we'll need to score 5 a game. So we need players who can actually score goals. And Jota is coming off a big injury. He's not got minutes. Nunes has had a stop-start. He scored for Uruguay during the break. But again, stop-start career. Diaz can play on the left. More obvious starts. I think I would go with Bobby just because he's scoring. I would take him scoring and not playing well than someone else not playing well and not scoring either. We will need to score a lot of goals looking at the way we are playing.
Okay, so Shree there, Lisa, has gone with Diaz, Bobby Firmino and Mo Salah as probably the best and in form right now. Also, probably played of, there's a lot of like familiarity from like last season in that as well, I suppose. And, like you kind of touched on an earlier point that, Carvalho in the front three was probably a little bit of a difference and, an adjustment kind of period within the game. So, who would be your, front three, if they're all, if they're on form, and who would you go for?
Yeah, I agree with Shri. I mean, I think it is Mo, Bobby, and Diaz right now. Although, I mean, I think, Jota is just coming off that injury. So I think maybe as he starts to get minutes, it will be interesting to see. The good thing about Jota is you can kind of rotate him in wherever. He can play in the middle, he can play on the left, and he can even, play on the right if necessary. So, that's a strength with him that, once he kind of gets more up to speed and because he didn't have a preseason, at all his injuries. So once he gets up to form, he can come in for, any one of them as needed. So I think they're probably Diaz, Bobby, and Mo are the strongest three, but I think, Jota isn't far off it.
Yeah, and we definitely, like Shri said, we definitely need our front men to be, hitting some form. And, I really want to see some kind of rhythm from Nunez as well, because we really, really will need our attackers if we are, like Shri said, having to score 5 to kind of compensate for the defensive frailties that we are currently suffering. Just a quick one, though, on the podcast. Whilst Lisa was speaking, I apologise for some background noise. Somebody did not mute on Discord. Look, thankfully, it wasn't a burp that I've experienced in the past. We edited it out, it's all good, but that's sort of been taken care of, and it was not Lisa making random noises in the back there. So that's been taken care of. But yes, let's carry on. So Lisa, speaking about Bobby there, he gets a goal. We had to wait a little minute because there was an offside kind of checking that needed to be done. Was more onside, offside when he kind of hooks in the cross to Bobby. Yeah, really, really needed that.
Oh, absolutely. And, it's nice every now and again to see VAR work in our favor. But, I also felt, not just, that goal really felt like it came at the right time. It would have been nicer if it had come earlier, don't get me wrong, but I felt the crowd kind of respond to that. You could hear them. They were, of course, singing Bobby's song, which therefore will be stuck in my head for the next 2 days. But that's okay. Yeah, you felt them get up. The players, got the push and, the spark that they needed from it. So I honestly, it came at the right time as we were starting to kind of build something. And it meant that we went down, at halftime, we were only down by a goal, which, is manageable. And because I think if we had gone into the half down by 2, it would have been very difficult for us to claw out of that hole.
I think that's right, and I think you're fair. And I think that goal did come at the right time in the sense that was maybe the period in the entire game where Liverpool started looking like they wanted to create something in an offensive sense. Shri, I'll come to you on the whole Bobby goal. What did you make of it? And I'd like to get your thoughts on the goal, the offside, like having to wait a little minute for the whole offside situation. But one thing that really kind of impressed me with this passage of play was obviously it started from Hendo giving the ball to Mo Salah. But I like the fact that it felt very quick and decisive.
Yeah, it was something we used to do very well, and it's almost like we've forgotten doing in terms of the offensive transition. If I remember, we built it up from Alisson, I think, and Hendo got the ball. He got it to Mo, and then Mo made a pass into the box, and Bobby finished it off. I think the goal was very much needed because it almost proved that if you have some sort of control on the proceedings, you could score against Brighton. That is one. It also gave us belief that if you make the right decisions, we will have the game in our control. I think it also made Klopp's halftime talk far more easier. You could just say, you were shit in the beginning, this resulted in 2-0. See what happens when you actually realize you can play football. We get back into the game. I think it just could have made his halftime talk more clear, and obviously it's a pre-plan that Diaz was going to come in. So, okay, we have 1 goal down, but we have Diaz, which means that with Carvalho playing on the left, they could afford to give space down the wing. Like the defender could pin on Carvalho, but with Diaz, you're not going to be able to. With his skill, he's going to beat the defender. So I think the game just opened up with Diaz coming in because there was so much space to expose their right side, and I think it was. I would say it was well deserved for the phase of play we were in, and it also helped us dominate the game 15 minutes post the break. I think with Diaz coming in, we were in. I would say that was the best period of the game. The 10 minutes before the halftime, and then the first 10-15 minutes after, till we decided to make subs as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I felt like, when we started playing like that quick kind of football, we had another chance, I think Trent winning the ball for Liverpool, passes it to Mo Salah like he usually would, and, Salah kind of firing it high. But what I kind of noticed was that defence looked a little rattled in those situations when we were quite quick and decisive. So, I take those as all positive, but it did finish on half-time at 2-1. So Liverpool going with, a goal and, something to work with. And Lisa, I'll come to you. Second half, Diaz, of course, will Klopp make a sub? Won't he make a sub? Does he make changes? And of course, Diaz comes on for Carvalho. So, the informed sort of striker comes on. And from the get-go, he's a bit of a handful. He looked really, I like the fact that and I've said this many a times on the podcast, but he just looks like I love his attitude. I love the fact that he just will get stuck in. He doesn't sort of cower down, and he's got a lot of fight in him. And and of course I think he plays street football, which I love to watch anyway. It's just beautiful football to watch. But he puts in a lovely pass for Bobby to get his second. He is instantly a nightmare for the Brighton defence.
Yeah, I feel like Diaz is a bit of a chaos maker for us in the best way. Because he's not predictable in his movements, or it doesn't seem that way, to me. And it as he plays more in the team and we watch him more, that may change. But right now, I think he, especially for the opposition, he can kind of pop up anywhere. I mean, even he's playing on the on the left, but he's not afraid, as the play moves to, if he needs to cross over into the middle or just kind of, take the ball to where it needs to go. And you're right. He has the mentality and the kind of the attitude and the fight that, frankly, a few more of our players could stand to pick up from time to time, or all the time. But yeah, so it was, he was immediately made an impact. And, when I saw that he was coming on, that change was being made at the half, I was happy for that. And, and we started the second half off much better. And that second goal was what we needed. And I was like, okay, yeah, all right. We might be able to pull a win out of this. So I was feeling better about things there for about 15 or so minutes.
Yes, same. It definitely felt like, he's going to give them a fair few headaches there. Shri, what did you make of the Diaz sub and, Bobby Firmino's goal there? I was actually just watching that when, and the thought that came to my head was, if, the last time Bobby was this involved and this many goals and, it's mad seeing him score a fair few goals at Anfield after he's had such a drought, because obviously he went on a mad one against Bournemouth. So I was like, ooh, it's good to see him kind of get the goals. But what did you make of, Diaz's inclusion there? Because I felt like him just running on things on the left was a bit of a nightmare for Brighton.
I think though Bobby has scored a lot of goals, I would say Diaz has been the single biggest spark in attack. He's the one who looks like making things happen, to be honest. Yep. That's what it's looked from day one. That's been the case from the time he's come in Jan, to be honest. He's been the best attacking player in the team from the time he's signed for us. He's the one who can make things happen. He has pace, he has close control, he's positionally sound, he can get to the center, he can hold his line. I think he's the one, we literally need him to play every game, but this schedule, and that is the catch-22 we can't play him every game. So it's about making judicial use of how many minutes he can sustain. Though he looks like, it feels like that he's another mad guy like Luis Suarez who can practically play every game. His fitness seems to be incredible, but obviously we are not. No player is going to be wanting to be benched, so we are not going to go around asking, "Are you feeling good?" He's obviously going to say yes. We are obviously taking medical opinion and loads on him because he's traveling. He's played a lot of games for Colombia as well. So I think we will always have a chance when we play. And I think that's been the impact of Luis Diaz. Things are going to happen when he plays.
Yeah, and I've just got
Because,
a quick question. Oh, go on.
sorry, just wanted to add, I think for all the tactical evolution or the need to be different, need to be move on to unpredictability, everything in this team is same. The only unpredictable factor is Diaz. That's why it's working.
Yeah, it's true. And I just got a quick question for both of you here, and if you could kind of answer what I find most impressive about Luis Diaz, aside from all his skill set and what he does, and also his attitude as well. I think the thing that kind of blew me away the most was the fact that he settled in from the get-go, and do you think that's largely down to the kind of player that he is as well, like a wide kind of forward, who can just kind of run at players and dribbles and cuts in, and, it kind of complements how we were already playing to begin with. Because obviously a lot of people are looking at Nunez, and like we've all said, it has been very stop-start for him. But he's also a very different kind of striker as well in terms of how he plays and how we play. I mean, how impressed have you guys been with Luis Diaz's, just how quickly he settled in? Lisa, I'll come to you first on that one, because I think you have to give him props for that as well.
Oh, absolutely. No, he has. And I think you're right. I think his style of play, before coming to Liverpool, was similar. Probably that made it easier for him kind of to settle in. But I think even just his overall attitude, and not that any of the other players don't, coming in have not had a good attitude. I'm not trying to be critical. It's just, he seemed, I mean, the first time he came on, I remember back, February, whatever, it was just, I was like, oh yeah, I like this kid. And I just, again, I think he sticks right in. He's not afraid to, to go to sort of attack and press and, and do what he can to get that ball back. And I mean, I know there's been a couple times, and I can't think of specifics, but, where he lost the ball maybe, but I mean, by God, he was going to do what he could to get it right back. I mean, I know there's times I've remembered him, running down players to try to take the ball back, and even being successful in doing so. So, I mean, I think he just has a great drive. And, it was the Napoli game where he scored that one goal, and, I mean, where everybody else's heads kind of went down, his did not. He was ready to just claw back whatever he could from that match, and I think that's just a look and attitude, and it needs to be catching.
It does, absolutely. Shri, I want to get your thoughts on just how well he's settled in and how quickly. I remember last season, I mean, Lisa was kind of talking now when she said, watched him play like from Feb onwards. And it was like, oh yeah, he's great, he's grand. And you could just see what he was bringing, and he brought that kind of flair. And it was, I was calling him like he plays football like he's playing street football, which I love to watch. And for me, overall, consistently, I thought he had a really, really good start to his Liverpool career. I think the only bad game that he had was the Madrid final, where I don't think he was more impactful off the bench. That's what I thought would have been best, tire out that Real Madrid team. But how amazing has he settled into this Liverpool side? And do you think he's got it a lot easier than maybe somebody like Darwin Núñez?
Yeah, I would say that one, I think it gives huge credit to our scouting, because obviously we just don't buy anyone and everyone. The player needs to be good, but he needs to fit in the system as well. And it's a January signing. We won't have a preseason. So it's kudos that he actually got going, but it's a credit to our scouting. I would say that first. And again, I think, as I said, from the minute he's come in, I think he's been the best player of the club. From Jan onwards, the minute he's come in, every bright spark in attack seems to go through him. And I think his confidence levels is high, and he backs his skills to make something happen. And as I've said, we have become too predictable as a team, and literally you can predict face by face what is going to happen. The team lineup, you can predict how is it going to play for good or bad. Predictability has helped us. We know 4-3-3. This is and I think now it's caught up, and I think he brings that bit of unpredictability. I don't think if you notice, I told you initially about Fulham game, right? How we kick off. And I don't know if you noticed today as well. We passed the ball to Matip. Matip passed it to Carvalho straight, and we lost the ball. It's a phase of play we do every game. I have no idea why. We kick off the ball. Henderson kicks the ball to centre back, and he will hit the ball long to the left-hand sided player. He will lose the ball. It's a phase of play which I know I'm digressing, but for my OCD, it's too much to miss it. But it seems to happen every game. I have no idea why we insist on such phases of play, though.
Yeah,
I'm going to start paying attention to that. Go for it.
I was going to say one other thing. I think the expectations per se for Diaz weren't as high as they have been for Darwin Núñez. Of course, Núñez being such, a high price signing and all that other, I think, and that's not his fault and that's not Diaz's fault. It's just, it is what it is. So I think probably that he hasn't had as much pressure on him to come in and make an impact and do well right away. That I think there's been a little more pressure on Núñez, especially, not just the cost of him, as a player, but then also the comparisons to Haaland at Man City and all of that other, and then of course, the red card and everything. I think that Diaz came in a little more low key and, so when you don't have that pressure on you, it can be easier to sort of settle into the team, at a faster pace and everything.
Yeah.
So.
Yep, I was. What was that?
Sorry. I just wanted to add one bit about Núñez. We also have to forget Núñez signifies a huge change in the way we would want to play. Obviously, we are not buying Núñez to fit into the system we are currently playing. And we have not got the time. We have had a bad start, which means we can't integrate him because Klopp, one thing we know with Klopp is that in terms of when we are playing well or when we are not playing well, he prefers to go with what he knows has worked before. And he's not going to put Núñez in and go for radical shift. There's obviously things he knows which works aren't working. I don't think he's going to take risks of putting in a new system here. But it almost seems like the team is caught neither here nor there. We are playing long passes when Núñez is not there, but we can't get Núñez in the team also. It seems to be a stop-start situation, while Diaz was a very clear defender. And this is where I know we are digressing into recruitment, but it almost seems like scouting working well and scouting being disregarded in terms of a recruitment decision.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I like the fact that you kind of mentioned that, I agree, stylistically is a very different player. And also your asset and, Lisa kind of, saying what the Núñez, what he's having to deal with less low key. And let's not forget Núñez has come into the Liverpool side where the functionality as a whole has been absolutely dreadful. So how do you expect him to, first of all, Liverpool to have the balls and the bravery to kind of change up the system? And secondly, the players just ain't playing well. You can't just look at him. It's the entire thing. Let's get back to this game because then obviously it's 2-2.
We have to.
Liverpool are fighting for this game now. At 58 minutes, Jurgen Klopp makes a substitution. Lisa, I'm going to come to you on this one. Henderson and Tsimikas off. Milner and Elliott on. I found this very strange. It gave me Crystal Palace vibes when we were sort of chasing the game again, and he brings on James Milner. I don't understand. Like we've just said, we were on the front foot at this point as well. It's worth noting. We were playing really well. You felt like if a goal was coming, it was going to be Liverpool who were going to score. Maybe this was the time that maybe you do throw on big fella Darwin Núñez and to kind of scare their defenders, maybe put in a bit of an aerial threat. I certainly don't understand the situation with that sub there. I thought Tsimikas didn't look tired. I thought the left-hand side was holding up pretty well, but, I'm not, but like, I'd like to get your thoughts because I thought that was a bit of a change. It kind of changed the game for me, that sub.
Yeah, I mean, I actually have written on Elliott, Milner, question mark. I mean, Elliott, I was fine with that. Henderson off, Elliott on. I think that was a good substitution and timed probably pretty well. Yeah, Milner, I was scratched as well. Now, I saw somebody, I think, put in the Discord chat that apparently Tsimikas did play a lot of minutes for Greece over the international break. And with Robo still out, and knowing the October we have ahead of us, I guess is my thought. But I think he probably could have played another 10 or so. Because I think you're right. It did kind of change things up. Now, I'm glad that Milner came on at, 60 minutes or whatever and didn't start the game. I mean, that's in the plus column because he does. Now, I have to say, when it looked like Lamptey was going to come on for Brighton, I was scared.
Yes.
I was.
So you should be.
I was worried, yes, because he is so fast. But it didn't happen, so there's no point in discussing that any further. But yeah, that one I did find a little bit. I was a little puzzled, but again, I mean, I don't know. I mean, if Tsimikas did have some minor little knock that we didn't happen to know about, we're going to need him, coming through until I think Robertson is maybe a week or so away from being back, so we certainly can't risk, Kostas Tsimikas being injured and us being without either left back. So I kind of get it, but I wasn't thrilled by it.
Yeah. Thank you for raising that about him having more minutes at Greece and not risking an injury, because then it would be Milner for the full 90, and exactly. I don't think anyone wants to see that. Yeah, Sheree, what did you make of the subs and the impact they had on the entire course of the game?
I think Lisa has covered the most important bits in terms that he's had minutes on his legs, and I think the message is quite clear. Robbo is not ready for the next one, at least, if not the next two. So Tsimikas needs to basically play 3 games, and we do. And with Liverpool, one thing we know is with injuries, we have it's like looking into a crystal ball, knowing when people are going to be fit. So I think the message is quite clear. Robbo is not in for the next game, at least. So we need to protect him, or else Milner could be starting. So I think Tsimikas, and these are what seems like clearly like the Diaz sub. These two are what I would call your medical science subs, like pre-programmed. This guy plays 45, or Diaz can play only 45, so let him get him. So basically, Klopp wants to play these players, but medical department overrules him, so he gets it done at the exact one. So these are pre-programmed subs. Like they would have known Tsimikas could play only 60. Hendo obviously has been unfit. He's got very few minutes, I think, for England. I think 10 minutes or so. So obviously he's nowhere going to play 90, which also means that Hendo is going to start again. That's also been made clear. And right side, we basically have no options now. Arthur is nowhere going to be fit, and if he plays, he's going to rotate with Thiago, which we have discussed when we signed him. So it obviously means Elliott needs to come in. Only thing maybe, again, it's the same conundrum we have. Do we understand the sub? Yes, but choice, maybe I would have even experimented, say, getting Joe Gomez playing at left back. Can't be worse than Milner, right? What's the harm in trying? Or you not get him. Unless Klopp was worried he might need Joe Gomez for, say, Trent later on, but you would have swapped it later. Get Milner in and move Gomez to the right either. That's the only thing I would have tried. Maybe get Joe Gomez on. Especially if they are going to make a sub on the right side, as Lisa was saying, in terms of Lamptey coming in. Thankfully, nothing didn't happen, so it's hypothetical at this point of time, but that's the only different thing I might have thought about.
I think you both make very, very crucial, very, very good points there, sound points. And, like I said, I didn't know that Tsimikas has played an awful lot for Greece. So, yeah, managing minutes is absolutely crucial. Appreciate that. And thank you for clarifying that up, both of you. Okay, so we go ahead. Webster on goal. I'll take it off anyone's backside at that point. So it's 3-2. We're all happy. I thought, yes, finally Liverpool respond really well. But I did feel though, the subs did make us look weaker, and it was around about 74 minutes where I kind of noticed, Lisa, where Brighton, started to look good again, because I thought they looked a little rattled and we were on the front foot. But then, obviously they credit to them, because they carried on, and they were sort of trying things. They were sort of trying to get attacks in. And then, of course, Bobby comes off, Jota comes on around about 75 minutes, but at 83 minutes, sucker punch to Trossard hat-trick. Just talk to me just about all those random things that just came into my head.
Again, credit to Brighton, when that third goal went in, not just third goal for us, but an own goal off of them, they could have dropped their heads, but they didn't. And as I said, I like this Brighton team. Anytime that they aren't playing us, I'm rooting for them. I just like the way they play and have for the last couple of years. So, again, credit to them. They kept pushing, and yeah, you're right. I don't know, I really couldn't put my finger on it if we sat back. I think this was about the point in the game where my 17-year-old wandered into my office here where I was watching, and I couldn't even tell you what pass it was. But somebody made a pass, and he's like, that was an awful pass. I can pass better than that. And I'm like, well, son, get you on a plane. Put a shirt, could use you at left back right about now. So again,
you just want to have a monopoly on this Liverpool side with all your children.
Yes.
Yeah.
I would also like to point out that this is my 17-year-old who does not weigh. Is skinny and as lightweight as anything, so he does not have the muscle at all. But regardless, it was just funny to hear him say that, because of my 3 kids, he's the least likely to come in and comment on what Liverpool's doing. But that was about the time it was like, all right, we've forgotten how to pass again. What is going on here? Now, I have to say, if that overhead kick that my 4th child, Harvey Elliott, if that had pulled off and become a goal, you all wouldn't have been able to shut me up for 60 minutes. So you were spared that at least. But yeah, here's what I have written on their third goal: defense crap again. So I really can't expand on it any further than that. Once again, the defense let us down and led to that third goal.
Yeah, and that's been like a reoccurring theme, and that's the most frustrating thing about it. Shri, what did you make of, again, us going ahead and then us just throwing it away at the end again, and watching it from a defensive point of view as well, like a ball kind of whipped in from the right. I felt like defensively we were just kind of a little bit everywhere. I was watching kind of James Milner. There was loads of space on the left. You don't let a player like Trossard have all that space. Nobody anywhere near him.
Yeah, I think first, obviously, our goal, dreadful keeping by Sanchez. That's his ball all the way, but obviously he's rooted to his ground. And you don't let the ball pass you so close to the goal. You're just creating scenarios which you don't want to imagine. So obviously, we'll take any goal, as you said, any goal which comes in, however it comes in, we'll gladly take it with the way we are playing. So, deserved, maybe not, but I think it was good to go ahead. But as we said, we can't start well at all. I think I'm just reading some stats, we have, 12 out of last 15, 12 games in the last 15, we have gone behind first. And out of that, 5 times are in the first 5 minutes. So we absolutely do not get started. We can't close out games. Klopp himself has come out and said, I don't know whether I can only laugh, because if I don't laugh, I'll have to cry. He said that even I didn't have 100% confidence that we would close out the game. So I don't know how beneficial it is. Yeah, we love Klopp being honest, but he himself says he didn't think we would close out the game. And I think, it's been spoken now for a few weeks in hush whispers. We need to start asking stuff about Virgil. He's nowhere close to what we know. I don't know whether he wants to play the World Cup clearly. I don't know. I'm not going to say he's tooling it down if that's the way, but I think he's just being more careful and he doesn't want to get injured. But simple mistakes. But as I said, when your system breaks down, even the simplest of mistakes get punished. It just gets highlighted. It goes through his legs, but as you said, Milner is nowhere in the place. we are not compressed enough and transitions are so poor, we get punished. And I think that's what has happened again. Not for the first time, and it definitely will not be the last time because we've had a month to fix it. We absolutely do not seem to care.
Yeah. And it's quite scary given the fact that, the next in the league we will be playing a very, very informed Arsenal side, and to be gifting 2 goals like that early on in the game as well, it is going to bite them.
I'm really scared when Trent plays against Martinelli. What's going to happen?
Oh God, don't, please. I will deal with that next week. Let's not even go there. But yeah, guys,
anxiety of the future. We don't want to think about that right now. Anxiety of the future.
Yeah. Hopefully, there's something miraculous happens with our defending and our concentration. I'm picking up on that positivity from Lisa Marie. Guys, we've come to the end of the pod. Is there anything you feel like needs highlighting? Or, of course, it's also worth mentioning as well. Thiago came off around about 88 minutes. Nunez came on. I think that was it pretty much. It looked like we weren't really going to score at that point. But guys, is there anything you feel like we need to discuss? Anything that needs highlighting? Lisa, I'll come to you first.
It was nice and sunny in Liverpool today. It looked like a nice afternoon here at Anfield. I hope everyone was able to enjoy that. That's all I've got.
It's better than nothing because I got nothing. Shri, I'll come to you.
Yeah, I'm thankful the game ended.
Again, better than what I've got, and I'll take both of them any day of the week. You know what, guys? I'm going to have to go there. I know that we drew and it was disappointing, but I guess you're going to have to do a man of the match. And I've kind of got a feeling I know where we're all going to go here. Shri, I'll come to you first. Who is your man of the match and why?
Tell me honestly, Nina, didn't you want to do the pod just for this section?
I did, but I'm not picking who you think I'm picking.
Yeah, in terms of impact on the scoreline, and I don't think we can do. I don't think there was any standout player. I would say Diaz in terms of like his impact on the game when he come in. So in terms of impact on the game, Diaz really showed. I would say he's one of the reasons we got to obviously 3-2 ahead. But in terms of just being in the right position to score goals, I would say Bobby. It's really tough to identify any standout players today. We were so bad.
I love that. I love the fact that you kind of went there and gave it to Bobby. I was going to give it to Alisson.
Oh.
Because he made some big saves.
I forgot, to be honest. Yeah, it could have been. I absolutely went blank at that one. Yeah, I wouldn't disagree.
Okay, no, I'm not trying to push my agendas like I used to with the Bobby Firmino.
But the only thing, though, Nina, at this rate, he's going to be the player of the season, though.
Oh, he is, absolutely. I'm not being funny. Like, he's the only one. Like, I mean, even the Napoli game, like, you couldn't be disgusted with Alisson for any of those goals. And again, today, I don't think he had a chance on any of them. Lisa, I'll come to you. Who's your man of the match and why?
I think it is Alisson, because not only, was he not really at fault for any of those goals, he could have let them rattle him, and he didn't. So, yeah, I think you're right. I think he was, although Bobby is a fair shot too. Yes. But I start thinking man of the match. When we went up that 3-2, I thought, I'm going to need a man of the match. And I thought, it's Alisson. So yeah, no, I think he's, his play has been the most consistent this season, really, of anyone. I mean, other than, on-field players, it probably have to be my kid Harvey Elliott. Just consistency that we've seen to this point. Consistency. He hasn't played brilliant every game, but, anyway. But for this game, man of the match is Alisson, because he could have let those 2 early goals rattle him, even though he wasn't at fault really for either one of them, but they could have gotten into his head and they didn't. And, and he saved, it could have been 4-0 at, or 4-0 at, by halftime, and it wasn't. So yeah, Alisson Becker, man of the match.
There you go. Yep, I'd have to agree with that. Guys, thank you so much for listening. A massive thank you to everyone that joined us live on Discord as well and putting their questions and their thoughts across. And Steve Pizza for his question. Really appreciate you guys for listening. Before we go, I'm just going to ask the guys for some plugs. So, Shri, I'll come to you. I mean, is there anything you'd like to plug, and where can people find you on social media?
So obviously you can find me on Twitter at Shrikant Bala. But in terms of plug, the only thing I would say is there's a really insightful piece I believe on Patreon by Sam about Pep Linders and his NEC team, because it's something I've thought, because I saw a few games of NEC, but he's put it so lucidly in that piece. I think that's a piece everyone should read. When you read it, you will almost feel like you're visualizing the current Liverpool team. And that's scary, actually. So I think that's the piece I would plug.
I like it. Thank you so much. Okay, check out Sam Maguire's piece. Lisa, anything you'd like to plug on? Where can people find you on social media?
So you can find me on both Twitter and Instagram at LMarieMH, or on the main Anfield Index podcast. The latest episode went up last night, so always fun with Trev and Guy and Carl or whoever happens to join us in the week. And I'm going to plug you, Nina, for your Instagram posts that you've been doing. I've been enjoying listening to those, where you do your little snippets about, the game that happened, the game coming up, or whatever. Everyone check out Nina on Instagram.
Thank you so much, and I'll be ripping you two up and putting you on there because that's what I do. I really, really enjoy this podcast. Despite the terrible result, I think, thank you so much for your insight. As always, you two have been absolutely excellent. So give both of these a follow on their social medias. Check out what they've recommended for you to go and listen to. Listen to the Main AI podcast. Check out Sam's article. Also follow Lisa on Instagram as well. For my part, I'll be back with my post-match show for Arsenal Fun and also the Euro Incision podcast as well. Busy times. I've had a break. Now it's serious times, but if Liverpool could stop being a joke, that would be great. Guys, thank you so much for listening. Take care. Till next time, up the Reds.
We hope you enjoyed listening to this Anfield Index show. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel so future podcasts find their way to your device automatically. There's nothing quite like fan engagement, and we'd love to know what you think of anything discussed on this show. The best way to get in touch is over on our free Discord community, where both podcasters and listeners debate the hottest LFC topics 24/7. Sign up free now at AnfieldIndex.com/Discord. You won't regret it. You can also follow us on Twitter at Anfield Index and find us on Facebook by searching for Anfield Index. Oh, and before you go, we'd love it if you could leave us a 5-star review on your favourite podcast app. It only takes a couple of seconds, and it means the world to the people who create these free shows.